molecular ocean. Imagine what you'll know tomorrow.
I'm not saying I'm going to rule the world or I'm going to change the world, but I guarantee that I will spark the brain that will change the world. And that's our job, is to spark somebody else watching us. We might not be the ones, but let's not be selfish, and because we're not going to change the world, let's not talk about how we should change it.
네.
You know, if I keep talking about how dirty it is out here, somebody going to clean it up.
Hey guys, welcome to a new episode. We're making a video discussion on the latest episode of Vinland Saga. And it's interesting what recently happened with Gudrid. You know, she managed to stay alive. And it's still sad that Einar passed away. And this is a reminder, everything that can be attained is all in a population. This is why the worst of the worst embodiments always misuse withholding vital information, misdirecting vital information, misdirect technologies. The worst embodiments always misuse the extracted currency to misdirect large percentages of a population. But when a population is able to catch on, it's all about making the physical reality in a way that benefits the majority percentage of the population of the people, and making the physical reality not benefit the specific corrupt oligarchs' bad apples. And there's a lot of ways to do that. Sometimes a civilization might forget and rediscover things that benefit the civilization. There's a solution to making the environment cleaned enough to where it's a type of environment where the best embodiments are not hiding vital information from the population, because the worst of the worst embodiments. And just look at the landscape, look at the humanity. Do you want the worst of the worst to have the ability to misuse currency and hide vital information within the population? Because that's what the battle has been, especially right now in this particular civilization, with a lot of the intelligence agencies in fighting. There's a lot of beautiful grown adults who have been in top fields of information, and they've been going on to podcast to alert the populations about what's going on. That all interconnection shows you the actual bigger picture. So this is all about you, the level that you're at in terms of your discernment. Because when you go out there, which side do you want at the very least what you should want? The bare minimum, what we should be able to agree on, is that we want the best of the best embodiments to be in key position of power at bare minimum. We don't want the worst of the worst people to be able to make a lot of money and then to misuse that money to misshape the physical reality of the particular civilization. At the bare minimum, we don't want the worst of the worst embodiments to be able to have the currency to threaten people in key government positions of power, to threaten judges to misuse currency, to threaten actual researchers, scientists, have actual incentives to boost the quality of life of the populations. We don't want the worst of the worst to cherry pick and get to dictate what researchers and scientists get to look into and what they don't get to look into. We don't want the worst of the worst to misuse currency to hijack key government sectors and to gatekeep the funding while worsening the attention span of the populations deliberately. You know, this is the type of landscape that you've been in at the moment, and this is what the battle has been, okay? The fentanyl issue, the specific corrupt oligarchs, bad apples paying the cartels and training the cartels just to get into major cities in the United States to try to destabilize the economy, to worsen people's mental health, to get the people to overdose. You know, they've been multi-angle attacking with the extracted currency. It's more than just what Danny Casolaro pointed out. This is the reminder. It's so urgent because I know the importance and how many people is suffering because of the worst of the worst embodiments are inexcusably misusing currency at those psychological and biological overpollutions against the majority of people of the particular civilization. And there's children, as teenagers, young adults, a lot of people suffering through cancer, psychological and biological cancer, because the worst of the worst embodiments are desperately hoarding vital information, hoarding already existing evidence, vital information, hoarding already existing advanced levels of molecular science, and they're desperately hoarding already existing advanced levels of advanced molecular technologies that benefits the populations, but it does not benefit them specific corrupt oligarchs, bad apples, to allow those technologies to be provided to the populations, because it makes the people more competent. It makes a lot of people, when they access that, It starts cleaning the environment in such a way that the specific corrupt oligarchs, bad apples, they cannot do the dirty business. They have been doing at the expense of the particular civilization, and you have to comprehend that is not normal. Okay? That should not be allowed. The weakened-hearted article, writers and their handlers, are the specific corrupt oligarchs' bad apples. They try to lie to you, to get you to think that you should just allow it to be when that's not the case. You don't have to live in a physical reality that only benefits them. You don't have to be in that type of physical reality. You can update the civilization, and you can place new infrastructures that have not been in the civilization thus far. But when you place it, it starts shaping the physical reality in a way that benefits the majority percentage of people in the particular civilization and doesn't benefit all those specific corrupt oligarchs, bad apples. You know, because they're preying on destabilized, because they've been misusing the population's military to displace people on the other continents, as a way to get resources and real estate at your expense while worsening the economy for you, making the food prices go up for you, making it impossible for you to be able to pay rent, because it's gotten to the point where so many people ending up homeless because they can't even afford to pay rent. So slaves are better off, because slaves at the very least have food, have a place to stay. Meanwhile, so many people don't even have a place to stay. People are being artificially forced to be turned into slaves. People are inexcusably destabilized and artificially degraded, and are at the moment forced to artificially consent. Slaves not just within their own minds, internally and externally. The specific corrupt oligarchs, bad apples, have been strategically, desperately, deliberately, inexcusably been misshaping the environment, the physical reality, the landscape of the particular civilization. Inexcusably against the core of the population and the particular civilization as a way to misshape the ecosystem to only profit and benefit them. They're misshaping the physical reality to only benefit them at your expense as a way to not let the physical reality benefit you. And the ways that they have been going about it is what is going to be explored, and that fellow bright minds can add on to. There's been too many credible grown adults that have caught on and have been doing their part, because they have sufficient personal lived experiences. They come from the core of the population. They feel the population's pain. They see the inexcusable corrupt crimes against humanity, the inexcusable corrupt artificial ways. The indecent, parasitic, specific, corrupt oligarchs, bad apples have been throwing desperately inexcusable, corrupt artificial symptoms as a way to psychologically and biologically overpollute and misdirect and misshape your environment, your physical reality, your landscape in the particular civilization against you and those you consider loved ones, against the majority percentage of people in a particular civilization. And the specific corrupt oligarchs, bad apples, have to be counterbalanced and legally eradicated now. And there are new tangible ways, new stated actual tangible solutions that have not been seen before and are being placed now in the particular civilization. And one of those is the new required overdue open source ledger and accountability button. It's a new tool that's going to be implemented that's going to help actually tangibly significantly update the particular civilization. And fellow bright minds are going to be able to add on to it. You fellow bright minds, incredible grown adults across the top fields of information that have been entering in our alert about the inexcusable corrupt infighting that has been happening. And the fact that the judicial system, and especially Congress, is going to have to be counterbalanced and regulated. Too much went unchecked until now. Too many tangible repercussions and damages have happened, and now have to be counterbalanced to actually help the particular civilization. So many people are working sufficiently, and they're doing their best not to end up selling drugs or doing horrible things, but those specific corrupt oligarchs, bad apples, are deliberately artificially worsening the environment and worsening people's mental health as a way to get them to spiral and destabilize. And meanwhile, they're misusing the camera technology to throw it in your face to distract you with the people getting destabilized to where you blame the destabilized people. But you're not blaming. The ones are the actual monsters, the worst of the worst embodiments of specific corrupt oligarchs, bad apples misusing currency to multi-angle attack and cause those people to end up destabilized, to make those families destabilized. because they're throwing large percentages of people into lower dead-end paradigms. And they're trying to desperately perpetuate the lower dead-end paradigms, trying to misalign people to have the worst embodiments within themselves, trying to worsen the environment to where people don't have those that can give them reminders, where people are being so destabilized to where they're not able to embody the best aspects of humanity. So when you have the worst of the worst, specific corrupt oligarchs, bad apples that went unchecked, you have to counterbalance that. The specific corrupt oligarchs, bad apples that went unchecked. The specific corrupt oligarchs, bad apples that went unchecked. End now, because the unchecked end now, and you have to comprehend the importance of that, because it's directly impacting the environment, the physical reality, the landscape that you and your loved ones are within. And just because you're in a phase of your life maybe where you might not be experiencing it right away, does not mean that it's not urgent and it's not important to you. Because sooner or later you're in the environment, you're going to end up encountering people being destabilized. You shouldn't blame those people. You shouldn't accuse those people. You should be upset at the specific corrupt oligarchs, bad apples, misusing the population's extracted currency to misshape the environment, the physical reality, the landscape of the particular civilization, locally and across the major cities. You're going to have to set the example first in the United States and get more precise instead of blindly blaming the government. Because it's always not a species' fault. It's not the group's fault. It's more about what someone is embodying and how fast can you notice what someone is embodying. And for you to figure out, are you able to nudge this person and give them reminders of humanity? Because if you can't, they're going to keep spiraling out of control. And depending on how much currency they have, they're going to misuse that currency. There's some that use currency to be solutions. There are some positive oligarchs. There's great kings, there's great oligarchs. But there are also specific corrupt oligarchs, bad apples. There's too many specific corrupt oligarchs, bad apples, that have been inexcusably shaking hands and destabilizing the continents. Each continent has the bad apples issue. And this is really just about updating the civilization to where you're placing the infrastructure, so that you can counterbalance, so you can solve that issue. And there's ways to go about that. The reason this is all mentioned is because even during Thorfinn's time, the story of Thorfinn is in a time period that had people that were just having a battle in terms of alignment. There's just percentages in alignment. How many years does it have to take until you can align a specific continent? Because some continents have certain things normalized. That's not normal over here. Please check out this interview by this CIA agent who mentioned how in certain continents, certain things are normal. And in a different continent, it's not normal. What does that mean? You as a population get to decide what is normal and what's not. You should not be dictated and lied to and misdirected by specific corrupt oligarchs, bad apples. You should not be deceived into thinking something is normal, that actually is only getting results, that has more cons than good, because there's specific corrupt oligarchs, bad apples, that have been throwing more cons than pros at the populations. And you have to be alert about that. And you have to normalize what is going to benefit the majority percentage of the particular civilization. Figure out how to normalize what's going to benefit you and the majority of people in the particular civilization. And that's how you go about figuring it out. And that's what Thorfinn had to figure out.